Good evening. I'm not Sue, you can tell that, right? So Sue and Bob and Hamilton are on the Outer Banks, and from the looks at some of their pictures, it's pretty isolated out there. Didn't even see another human being. Deborah Lester and myself will bring you this celebration this evening. We also welcome our Zoomers. This evening, we're going to talk about Godwinks, those coincidental happenings in our lives that are more than coincidental. Also want to thank all the people that helped us put this together this evening. The logistics have been perfect. Everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do at the right time. So as we journey into our lives this evening, we journey on the Via Negativa, the road of darkness, where the mystery of life allows us to grow out of that darkness and to enter into the light. In fact, the darkness is our candle on this road. Both darkness and the light must be present inside of us to embrace the sacredness in all of us and the sacredness in all things. Now, a part of our ritual in the tranquility and tea has always been to wash our hands and then enter the sacred circle. Muslims wash their faces, hands, feet, and arms before entering the mosque, because they have an appointment with God. Now, lots of people do this. Jews, Muslims, Christians, all religions and belief, for the most part, have had some kind of washing, purification ritual before they enter into a sacred space. Our sacred circle invites you to participate in this symbolic ritual as you enter our circle to begin. And by the way, maybe it's a coincidence, or it may be a Godwink, that Hanukkah and Advent are both begin today, and both being about light in the darkness, just as our ritual this evening will lead us into. Now please join me as we wash our hands and then re-enter the circle, please.
If you will join with me in the call to prayer, we bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come with proud and joyous. We bid you welcome, who are seekers to a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, who enter this place as a homecoming, who have found there room for your spirit, who find in this people a family. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. Now, as we enter the season of light, we bless our time together by lighting a candle. If you will join me in lighting the candles on the altar.
Please join in as we read the prayer responsively. Creator God, we always ask before we thank, for we are asking creatures. We ask for love, and thank you for the love you have inspired in us. We ask to be closer to you, Thank you for your capacity to pray. We ask for your understanding.
And thank you for bringing us the light of your presence.
We ask for happiness.
And thank you for the joy of life.
We ask for strength.
And thank you for the courage you have given us to hope.
We ask for your presence.
And thank you for living in our hearts.
We ask, and we have already received. Blessed be your name, O God, our Creator. Amen.
For those of you who are unaware of the Hallmark movies or the books by Squire Rushnell, Godwink is a new word for those coincidences that aren't coincidences at all, but come from divine origin. Godwinks are always signs of hope. They are God speaking to you. Godwinks are the language of the stars. For something to happen, so many forces have to be put into action. Godwinks can be what we think of as messages from loved ones in heaven, pennies, white feathers, or cardinals. Some may see them as angels sent by God. Either way, they are messages of hope. And they are all around us if we're attuned to them. Godwinks happen once you let the universe flow continuously through you, not when you try to fit into its flow. The Godwinks I wish to share tonight are the angel variety and involve the same angel. In May 2006, my family had gathered next door to plan my mother's funeral. As we sat in the parlor waiting, Central's then pastor, Luther Rickenbacker, entered the foyer with some misdirected mail. He saw me and came into the parlor with a hug and words of condolence and support when I needed it. One cold morning in November 2011, Luther was a Godwink again. I was leaving Spartanburg Regional with my great nieces, Haley and Hannah. Their sister had just been born, and their mother was fighting for her life. The girls had seen Tiny Katie and didn't understand why they couldn't see their mom. As I took them to breakfast, Luther was coming into the hospital on his way to visit the sick. He rejoiced with us about Katie's birth, and his presence comforted me as a reminder of hope, and that, to use the phrase of today, God's got this.
Godwinks quotes, "Ever feel like a Godwink is the universe telling you, warmer, you're getting warmer?" In shamanic cultures, Godwinks are recognized as signs that you are on the right path.
Godwinks can come in many sizes and shapes and colors. Some can be profound and some can be quite subtle. I've had a few really, really profound ones. In my on the early stages of my spiritual journey. And here lately they've become a lot more subtle. And I'd like to think that's because I've become a little bit more attuned to them so they don't have to quite jump out and grab my attention so hard. So One of the Godwinks that I experienced was back in, I guess, 2006 or 7 when I first started my spiritual journey. I was just starting to experiment with talking to the angels or the archangels and learning about them, and learning that, contrary to my religious background, that I could easily access them. I was riding down the road going home from work one day, and I was practicing and talking to whichever the angels was listening at that time, because I didn't really know. But I was talking to them and telling them how much I believed in my heart that they were here with me and how grateful I am for that. But my mind needed some kind of confirmation for my head to get on the same page. I remember that I was about to make a left-hand turn, and I looked up at the sky, and there in plain sight, big as anything I've ever seen in my life, was a beautiful Pegasus made out of clouds. My mouth dropped open, and I knew in an instant and in my heart that this was a sign, a gift for my open-hearted willingness to believe. Such a feeling of love and appreciation washed over me. And later, as I was doing some reading about the Pegasus and the meaning of seeing one, I learned that the Pegasus is the animal of Archangel Michael. And ever since that day, he has been with me constantly, and we talk every day. The second experience I had one day during the summer, not too long after the Pegasus, someone had dropped off a dead hawk at our doorstep on my workplace, because we had a DNR employee that worked there, and there was a note that said the hawk had gotten killed on a power line or something. The DNR employee called his supervisors for direction because all birds of prey are protected, especially the raptors like this hawk. Basically, he was instructed to just throw it in the dumpster. I was absolutely mortified that this beautiful creature could just be tossed into a dumpster like it meant nothing and its life was of no importance. And because one of my many teachers along the way was a Lakota elder, I knew the spiritual importance of birds of prey and their feathers. At this point in my journey, I was desperately wanting a feather because I wanted to be special and worthy. Don't worry, I know my worth now. I was early in my spiritual journey. In Native American cultures, feathers are widely considered to signify the connection between the creator, the owner of the feather, and the bird from which it came. Deeply revered, the feather symbolizes high honor, power, wisdom, trust, strength, and freedom. Feathers can only come as a gift and never be taken forcefully. So I told my coworker I would never let him throw that bird in the dumpster, and I would give it a proper burial. I grabbed a shovel and headed out to the water retention pond behind the office. And as I entered the gate to the retention pond, I was lamenting at the loss of this beautiful life. I looked up, and there in a tree beside the pond were 2 more hawks, as if they had come to pay their respects. My plans for burial were thwarted by the dirt too hard to dig in, so I settled for placing the bird near the water's edge and said a prayer for the safety of its spirit and thanked the spirit of the hawk for allowing me the opportunity to honor its life in this way. And I really fought the urge to just pluck one of its wing feathers or tail feathers. I mean, it literally landed on my doorstep after all. But who needs the feather when I was gifted the whole bird? I thought better of it, of course, and said my prayers and left the area. The 2 hawks that were in the tree flew off about the same time as I was leaving. Later that day on my way home from work, in almost the same spot as the Pegasus, I looked up and found that I had indeed been gifted with a huge cloud feather. It was humbling and definitely awe-inspiring. No doubt Spirit was acknowledging and honoring my existence as I had honored and acknowledged the birds. And my last story is a little more recent. I was out on a farm with a landowner and an engineer looking at potential project sites, and we were walking around this little farm pond, and I noticed the huge Joe Pye weed plants that were blooming all around the pond. Now, for those of you who don't know, Joe Pye weed is an excellent pollinator plant and has beautiful showy blooms, and it really loves moist soils. I commented to the landowner about how beautiful those plants were and told him that they are a favorite bloom of the swallowtail butterfly. And as if on cue, within seconds of me making that comment, a beautiful yellow swallowtail butterfly floated by us and landed on the closest Joe Pye weed bloom, as if to say, yep, we sure do love these things. The landowner's jaw dropped, and he acknowledged the uncanny synchronicity of the butterfly, but I knew it for what it was, a Godwink.
Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. We do not create our destiny, we participate in its unfolding. Godwinks work as a catalyst towards working out that destiny.
This is a background description I call When Things Fall Apart. Most of us enjoy a fantasy, an aspiration of having agency in the affairs of our lives. However, as we all know, the truth is that we are, all of us, vulnerable to circumstances and events entirely outside of our control. In the late 80s, I was in the middle of a challenging relationship issue involving others that were very, very important to me. I had carefully and exhaustively negotiated a kind of settlement in which all of our interests, as I imagined them to be, all of these interests could be satisfied. But to my shock and dismay, a letter was sent to me by one of the parties, completely destroying my carefully crafted solution. It was clear to me that I needed to end the whole business. I would need to do this in a letter. But how? With what voice? I was utterly exhausted and without a clue. I sat on this for a few days and I prayed for guidance. My prayers were answered. This an answer when angels appear, clad in purple polyester. Everyone is familiar with the phenomena of God's answers being revealed in the most absurd and ordinary ways. In my case, I needed to be so completely beaten down that I could not be distracted by my usual egocentric thinking and planning. Surrender and vulnerability opened my eyes. This is my story of encountering an angel. She was clad in purple polyester. This is the poem, Yi Jing. After all my maneuvering, what wanted to happen happened. She laid bare the bones, and I read them like a prophecy. I was still reading them a week later in a parking lot in Hartwell, Georgia, self-absorbed and missing something. Rain clouds came rolling in from the east. I looked up and I saw a girl across the street in the purple ether, a ripened cherub in polyester pants, stretching upon a ladder beneath a convenience store sign, hanging letters, spelling a word, COMPASSION. This word, and then the rain. At last, I knew how to bury the dead and nurture the living in this bloodied situation. So I took care of business, exhausted but unburdened. 6 months later, I returned to Hartwell for business, and of course, I returned to the place of my vision. Driving by, I saw the sign, and I read the new words, "We sell money orders."
Godwinks happen once you let the universe flow continuously through you, not when you try to fit into its flow. Hesitation is synchronicity's nightmare, and acceptance its wonder.
So what does a God wink mean spiritually? A God wink or a synchronistic event for someone on the spiritual path is at that moment in the fabric of time when we suddenly and briefly become consciously aware that we have made a much deeper connection with the universe, or that which is greater than our usual individual egos. Our inner psychologist, the grace of the psyche, knows just how to help us with our emotional injuries. We can trust this inner psychologist to have a handy program perfectly calibrated for every crisis that may come along. But we have to work along with it. Our inner spiritual guide, let's say the priest within us, the grace of the soul, who knows the full itinerary of our journey. This inner priest brings bursts of imagination, spontaneous creativity, sudden awakenings, and other spiritual gifts. Carl Jung said that synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Now here's an example of Carl Jung's brush with synchronicity with a patient of his. He was during a therapy session with a woman who is quite highly educated and rational, who stays in her head all the time, and had a quite serious demeanor about her. Now, Jung knew that he was not going to be able to get through to her on a deeper level unless an irrational event occurred in the form of a coincidence. Jung sought out anything he could use to get through to her. Shortly after, the woman began describing a significant dream of a golden scarab. As she was describing this beetle in more depth in Jung's office, Jung heard a tapping at the window behind him. He opened the window and revealed a live, goldish green scarab beetle, not even native to that area. Astonished, Jung quickly grabbed the beetle and walked it over to the woman and said, "Here is your scarab." This event was enough to help break the woman from her overly rationalistic worldview and at last connect her dream world to her waking life, a fundamental revelation in Jungian psychology. This is what a golden scarab looks like. Five years ago, Rita and I were in Palermo, Sicily, and we went on a tour to see this 12th century cathedral, which housed royal tombs of former rulers of Sicily. It was said that a part of the cathedral had Islamic architecture that was part of an Islamic mosque that predated the 12th century structure. Needless to say, the inside of the cathedral was supposed to be spectacular. When Rita and I approached the cathedral, there was a woman with a cup in her hand. She looked very poor. It's a picture of her. She's about 50 feet from the front of that cathedral. So we approached this woman. She looked very poor, and I was struck with the contradiction of her begging in the giant cathedral just a few feet from her. I teared up quickly with an overwhelming sense of what in the hell is going on around here. This woman from poverty was sitting and begging next to a 12th century cathedral, overwhelmingly gilded with gold. They had lots of bones of some saints and altars and so on. And I began to cry. All I could think of was just what Christ said to us. I was hungry and you fed me. I was without shelter and you gave me shelter. I had this overwhelming sense that this woman was truly what Christ was all about and not the cathedral. This little woman was the Christ, sitting on a chair next to the cathedral with few, if anybody, noticing her. I could not stay in the cathedral very long that day. I wanted to go back outside, and I just showed you the picture of her, which I keep right beside my chair in my office. When we came out of the cathedral, she was walking into some bushes and disappeared. This was a Godwink that changed my life in many ways. Godwinks occur and are perceived constantly in dreams, symbols, numbers, random events, conversations, and spontaneous events. Godwinks can aid in awakening to your full potential and serve as a guide for getting in touch with your inner self. If you want to make connection with more Godwinks or miracles in your life, pay attention to your thoughts and your feelings in places you visit, the people you meet, the conversations you have, and let all of this create an alchemy and give your thoughts a chance to play in your mind. For sure, we exist, and we exist as a miracle. Let's not forget and see that the sacred is in all things, the miracle of creation. The goodness of creation is a miracle and a Godwink. Thank you.
And now I would like for you to join me in dropping a stone into our water vessels to commemorate our joys, sorrows, and concerns. One joy we can focus on tonight is the new grandparents in the group, Don and Gail McCormick. They have a new little grandson born Thanksgiving Day, right? A week earlier. And they haven't seen him yet, so they will be going off on Friday, so wish them Godspeed, and we will be so happy when we can see pictures of them with the babe. Now, if you'll join me in dropping your stones.
Can we join together with All Is Well, the song on your sheet there? Joys and concerns. All shall be well. All shall be well. All manner of things shall be well. All shall be well.
This is the part of the service where we usually ask, for we are asking preachers, and then thank you for your generosity. Tonight, I want to take the time to talk about how your donations are used by STAR. STAR has managed to remain a pretty lean organization over 20 years. Thanks to Central, we do not have to maintain any buildings, neither do we employ clerical or maintenance staff. Over 2/3 of our budget is a part-time salary for our full-time minister, Sue. 1/10 of the budget goes to support local charities and nonprofits. The rest is spent on food, supplies, music, and technology, which are used in our services or to promote our services. In short, unlike many religious organizations, we spend virtually all our money directly on our spiritual mission. And that's one major reason I always feel good about giving to STAR. I hope you do too. I'd like to ask Emily and David to pass the STAR baskets, and thank you for your generosity.
We join together and sing Ubi Caritas. Ubi Caritas et amor. Ubi Caritas Deus ibi est. Live in charity and steadfast love. Live in charity, God will dwell with you. Part of the support that we're receiving this evening from you guys is going to go to Halter. A donation will be given to them, sharing their creative energy with us. If everybody would stand for the four directions, please.
We evoke and welcome the one who created the sun, the moon, and the stars. This presence, Wakan Tonkan, the wonderful and mysterious one, has created the light and the darkness. This time of year, the darkness brings the unknown, the mystery, and the unpredictable. Just as the winter night, darkness falls across our dear mother, another darkness can come upon us individually in our souls. We as individuals face uncertainty, darkness, suffering, fear, betrayal, hurt, disease, and the ultimate darkness of death.
Our Native American brothers and sisters tell us about the circle of life, that all life is on a circle and that this circle is a holy and sacred place. Our universe demands that we face this internal darkness, fear and mystery, just as we face the light, goodness and beauty. The light and the darkness live within this circle, and we will face both in our lives. Deep in our DNA, there is the original blessing of creation that was proclaimed by the Holy One 13.5 billion years ago. Darkness lives in that DNA as a part of this original blessing. Remembering that the goodness of creation lives in us at the very same time the darkness lives in us. This is the reality of our lives. We burn the sage and sweetgrass, which is also a part of original blessing. We receive healing with the smoke and the aroma. This healing touches the part of us that knows that dark and light coexist as a part of being alive. They both live in the same space. The buffalo drum recreates the heartbeat of the goodness of creation living inside each of us. The sweet yet haunting notes of the flute are evidence of the relationship between the light and the darkness, held together with alchemy of the great mystery. Facing east, the grandmothers and the grandfathers of the East welcome the light every day. Within this light, we grow food and see the birds fly above us. East is the direction from which light comes and is the direction for birth and rebirth. The East is a part of the great circle. Altogether, we befriend darkness by knowing that darkness is a natural and essential occurrence in all parts of our journey. We emerge from the darkness of our mother's womb, and in the same way from the darkness of the Spirit. Let everything happen to us, beauty and terror, just keep going. No feeling is final. This is how we befriend darkness.
A quarter turn to the left, facing to the south. The grandmothers and the grandfathers of the South tell us what hurts us blesses us. Darkness is our candle. They ask, are you willing to be sponged out, erased, canceled, and made nothing? Are you willing to be made nothing, dipped into oblivion? If not, we will never really change. Altogether, we befriend darkness by knowing that darkness is a natural and essential occurrence in the parts of our journey. We emerge from the darkness of our mother's womb in the same way from the darkness of the Spirit. Let everything happen to us, beauty and terror, just keep going. No feeling is final. This is how we befriend darkness. Quarter turn to the right, facing to the west.
The grandmothers and the grandfathers of the West tell us that suffering is a part of our training. The Great Spirit is treating us as her sons and daughters. She tells us, be not afraid. We are born into the original blessing of creation. Altogether, we befriend darkness by knowing that darkness is a natural and essential occurrence in parts of our journey. We emerge from the darkness of our mother's womb, and in the same way from the darkness of the Spirit. Let everything happen to us, beauty and terror, just keep going. No feeling is final. This is how we befriend darkness.
Quarter turn to the right, facing to the north. The grandmothers and the grandfathers in the north ask us to be courageous. when the cold winds of life fall upon us. Let us move through life ready to take what comes from the north. Let us remember that the Great One gives us the gift of a new day. Comfort us and caress us when we are confronting the light and the dark by reminding us that we are the goodness of creation. Altogether, we befriend darkness, knowing that darkness is a natural and an essential occurrence and part of our journey. We emerge from the darkness of our mother's womb, and in the same way, from the darkness of the Spirit, let everything happen to us, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is fine. This is how we befriend darkness. Facing to the center.
The grandmothers and the grandfathers of the center space ask us to look around this circle of life and know that the goodness of creation lives in each one of us. Our circle of life invites all to stand with us and welcome your vulnerability and your strength. Our journey now enters the Via Negativa, the dark road. Altogether, we befriend darkness by knowing that darkness is a natural and essential occurrence in all parts of our journey. We emerge from the darkness of our mother's womb, and in the same way from the darkness of the Spirit. Let everything happen to us, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. This is how we befriend darkness. Namaste.
If I could ask Rita to extinguish our candle as we read together. And though we extinguish our community candle, we do not extinguish the warmth of community, the spirit of gratitude, the fire of commitment, and our shared compassion during this time together as community. The light of hope, hope for change that brings new blessings into our lives and the lives of those around us, remains and will continue to burn brightly. We carry the light of hope in our hearts until we are together again. Amen. Now if we'll attempt to sing. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround us everywhere, everywhere we may go. Until we meet again, hopefully on December 12th at 6 o'clock. Go in peace and happiness.